Welcome back to Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN on a Friday, as of course the Phillies in action today. They're taking on the NL champion New York Mets. We'll talk some Phils, we'll talk some baseball with ESPN's Buster Olney as he joins me here on the Sports Bash on a Friday as the first week of the baseball season. Buster is finally here, and we're at the end of the week already, and already seeing some quirky things as we typically do early season baseball.
Yeah, probably number one on that list would be the Padres not scoring in their first three games of the season. In fact, their AAA team in its home opener was also shut out, and a lot of guys hitting home runs early, whether it's Robinson Cano or Trevor Story, the Colorado Rockies.
Well, Buster, here in the Delaware Valley where the Phillies, not a lot of expectations. I want to start there because when you don't have a lot of expectations and you have some young pitchers, how hard is it so early in the year to go through what they've gone through already, where their bullpen obviously looks like it's going to be – we knew it was going to be an issue. It's already reared its head. How does that bother and work its way into a team that got young pitching when they're losing games when they leave with the lead?
Well, I do think they probably, in a sense, as they develop pitchers like Aaron Nola, they have to box them in. And I'm sure Pete McCann, in his conversations with the front office, they're already dealing with that issue and having conversations about it. His development, the development of other guys in his staff, that's going to be a completely separate thing, and they're not going to deviate from the path in order to win games, in my opinion, this year. In other words, it's not like they would try to break up a losing streak by saying, you know what, we're going to have Aaron Nola throw extra pitches. Because big picture, the most important thing for the Phillies this year is going to be the development of some of these young guys on their team who are going to be part of the team when it becomes good, and that's not going to be in 2016.
No, and I don't think the expectations are there yet. But as you look at this team moving forward, how far away are they? I mean, it looks like a team that made some good trades, and people are excited about that. But is this team still 2-3 years away?
Yeah, 3 years away is probably would be a fair expectation. I mean, the Phillies to me are in 2016 where the Cubs were in 2012, where they're putting together what looks to be an excellent group of prospects, and I base that on what I hear from people. I'm not, don't spend a lot of time around the Phillies prospects myself. But on top of that, and here's why, in my opinion, in 3 or 4 years, the Phillies are going to be an absolute monster team. You do not see the type of payroll flexibility the Phillies are building and creating for themselves going into a year probably in the fall of 2018, which would be the greatest free agent class in history. When the Phillies are ready to take that next step, they're going to have more money available than any other team to go after the likes of Bryce Harper or Matt Harvey or Jose Fernandez or Clayton Kershaw, Manny Machado. They're going to be in a great position to go out and reach and get veteran players when they're ready to take that next step.
Buster Olney's with us. There you go, Phillies fans. Some reason for hope there with a 0-3 start. Haven't had that happen since 2007, although that 2007 team ended up being pretty good. They're going to play the Mets today, and in your view, or they're playing the Mets today. In your view, Buster, are the Mets still the favorite in the National League, or are you leaning Cubs like a lot of other people?
Yeah, I think big picture over the course of the season that the Cubs are the better team because in this polarized National League where it looks like we're going to have 6 really bad teams, I think the Cubs are better equipped to just beat the hell out of teams during the year because their lineup is so deep. Even without Kyle Schwarber, who got hurt on Thursday, the addition of Jason Hayward and Ben Zobrist to go along with Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant and the rest of that lineup, there are going to be days when they score 15 to 20 runs because especially against these teams that don't look like that they're equipped to even win 65 or 70 games this year.
Yeah, it should be fun. It's look at a quick at the American League. Mike Trout, he's from our area here, so everybody always has their eye on him. Not only here, but all over baseball. You look at that Angels team out there. They had the walk-off against the Rangers the other night. Where do they sit in that American League? It seems like that American League is pretty interesting, pretty wide open.
Yeah, it's much more competitive overall than the National League is this year because all the teams are actually trying to win. And the Angels, they made upgrades during the offseason. They, under new general manager Billy Epler, they went and traded for Andrelton Simmons to take over at shortstop, Yunel Escobar at third base. But I think they're going to have a hard time because of the quality of their pitching. Andrew Haney, who was supposed to be a big part of their rotation, has gone down with a forearm issue. Jared Weaver was clocked with his fastball at 81 miles per hour during spring training. My view on it early is that the Angels are probably the fifth best team in that division.
Wow, Buster, one of the things you just kind of hinted on is that everybody's trying to win. I know you have talked about it. We've seen it go on here on the basketball side. Sam Hinkie walked out the door yesterday on the tanking in Philadelphia. Is that something that is being talked about more and more in baseball, specifically this year? Are we seeing teams that are quote-unquote tanking?
Yes, and this has actually been talked about in baseball for the last 4 years, but it's getting more and more attention as baseball moves toward its next collective bargaining talks. The owners at their meetings in January discussed it, about it being a growing concern. General managers are talking about it being a growing concern. The strong belief is among general managers that the Cubs and the Astros got to where they are now in part because they essentially designed their teams to fail. They cut their payroll way back. They didn't spend money that they could have spent because of baseball's new draft slotting system, where there's a lot of incentive to lose and not only be one of the 5 worst teams, but literally to be the worst or the second worst team. You get a lot more money to sign drafted players. And that's what's probably going to be adjusted in the CBA, how much incentive there is to lose. But absolutely, the other day I had a conversation with a guy who's been in baseball for a really long time, and I said, have you ever seen a league like the National League is this year? And he looked at me and he said, you mean where teams aren't trying to win? And I said, yeah, that's exactly. He said, no, I've never seen it. Only for sure the Phillies front office, the Reds, the Brewers, the Braves know for sure if, in fact, that's what's going on, that they're tanking their seasons. But let's face it, there were opportunities during the winter when there were a lot of free agents available when they didn't try to get better. You mentioned the Phillies bullpen. They trade Ken Giles on December 12th, and everyone knew at that time this bullpen was going to be a struggle. There were a lot of guys out there to sign. Phillies chose not to, and they go into the year with essentially a $50 million payroll beyond what they're paying Ryan Howard, Matt Harrison, and Cliff Lee in his buyout.
Last one on, you just mentioned Howard. He's at the end of the road. You think there'll be any interest in him? Is that the one guy? Because you look at the Phillies, the last couple of years, it's been, all right, who's going to get dealt? Right now, they're about out of guys to move. He might be one guy, him and Ruiz. I guess Hellickson and Morton, if they pitch pretty well. But is this the year that Howard finally gets moved, or will he end his career a Philly?
Yeah, and I think that's what's going on with the Phillies. Let's face it, if you base it purely on production, on the direction of the organization, it probably, the best baseball decision would have been to let him go and move on and use that position to develop other guys. But this is a legacy player, and they've already paid him in sunk cost, so you might as well keep him around. I think they'll ride it out with him until the end of his contract and that, keep the relationship going forward between Ryan and the organization because of what he has done in the past. But I don't think there's interest in other teams, especially because it feels like, generally speaking, the industry is moving away from those high strikeout, one skill power hitters that we've seen around baseball, and we've certainly seen examples of it this winter with guys like Pedro Alvarez and Chris Carter. They had a hard time finding jobs, and I think Ryan would once his time with the Phillies ends.
All right, Sunday Night Baseball, don't forget, Yankees versus Tigers, and two teams that have been in the forefront the last couple of years, Buster. Where are those two teams for Sunday Night Baseball?
Well, the Yankees, I do think they're going to be better than people realize because they have a deeper team, especially with their lineup because of some of the additions they made, adding young guys like Didi Gregorius before last year. Starlin Castro's off to a great start. Aaron Hicks in the outfield. And the Tigers, are in the mix in the American League Central again, but will need strong contributions from guys like Justin Verlander, who's pitching the game on Sunday night. And, over his last 12 starts, dating back to last August, he's got an ERA of 2.30. He's figured out some things And when I get to Detroit, that's what I'm looking forward to exploring.
All right, that's the Sunday Night Baseball game this week. It's Yankees and the Tigers. And, of course, you can listen to Sunday Night Baseball right here on 97.3 ESPN. And the guys will have it all on ESPN. Another year of baseball is back. Buster Olney, Buster_ESPN, with all the baseball as we are through week one almost of the baseball season. Buster, it was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Buster Olney, everybody, here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. We thank Buster for jumping on board. Don't forget the Sunday Night Baseball and the Phillies in action today against the Metropolitans. We'll have an update on that game coming up next.